Hello. Today we're going to do another ChatGPT generated true survival story. Again, I have not pre-read these, so I'm going to be reacting real time along with you all. Alright, so this is The Arctic Castaway, How Ada Blackjack Survived Alone in the Frozen North. She wasn't a trained explorer, she wasn't a soldier, or a survivalist, or a scientist. She was a young Inuit woman, a mother from Nome, Alaska, hired to cook and sew for an Arctic expedition. And when everyone else was gone, she was the only one left alive. This is the true survival story of Ada Blackjack, the woman who survived alone in the Arctic for nearly 2 years. Yikes. So, a bit more than last time, by like 200 days. So, first is the expedition. It was 1921. A Canadian explorer named Vilhjalmur Stephenson had an idea to claim Wrangel Island, a remote piece of Arctic land north of Siberia, for Canada or Britain. Interesting. Never heard of that island. I will put a picture of the map in the video so that you can see where this island is. 1921 is makes sense. Lots of exploration at this time. A lot more freedom to claim certain lands and islands and whatnot. So it says, ooh, the mission was poorly planned from the beginning. That is not a good start. Makes sense already, kind of where this is headed. Only 4 men were selected and none of them had real Arctic survival experience. Yikes. Okay. Yeah, that's not that is not good at all. So that is very unfortunate that they started off with just 4 men. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. I would have a hard time being sold going, but I guess back then there weren't as many job options, so yeah, just go with it. And then there was Ada Blackjack, a 23-year-old Inuit woman hired at the last minute as a cook and seamstress. She had no weapons training, no survival knowledge, and she was trying to earn money to support her sick son back home. Oh, man, that's rough. Yeah, it sounds like a time of desperation a bit, where she just really needed something. So overall, this is a bad situation for unexperienced men. One lady who also doesn't have experience, but she's in a desperate place where she needs the money to care for her sick son. Yeah, this is not setting up for a good situation at all. All right, disaster in the Arctic. The group landed on Wrangel Island in September 1921. Things went wrong almost immediately. Food ran low. The ice never cleared long enough for resupply. By early 1923, the men had made a desperate decision. So they're already 2 years in, and they decided that this is not going well. They need to figure something out. 2 years in. I'm just thinking how much time has already passed. I mean, they made it to the island like they wanted, but I'm just impressed they made it, honestly. I don't know how far of a trip that was from them, but that's pretty impressive in itself, especially sailing and all that with the inexperienced part of things. Alright, let's keep going. 3 of them left to try to reach help. They were never seen again. Oh gosh. The one man who remained, Knight, became severely ill, likely from scurvy, and eventually died in camp, leaving Ada completely alone. So 3 of them go. They leave the 2, Ada and this other guy, alone, and then those guys are just gone. I can just imagine having to sit through and wait, hoping those 3 men will come back and provide help, and it just never happened. Just think about the thoughts that were going through their mind. I mean, thankfully they had each other, at least up until this point, but just the hopelessness that could come from that. So it was just her on a frozen island with polar bears. No rescue in sight. Okay, yeah. Polar bears are terrifying. They're very, very aggressive. I'm just impressed with their ability to survive thus far without getting killed and injured by polar bears. So that's very impressive. All right, now we have Ada's survival. Ada Jack Black, once dismissed as just the seamstress, now had to become the entire expedition. She taught herself to hunt seals and birds, set up and maintain traps, keep a fire going, fend off polar bears, one of which tried to enter her tent. Yeah, I'm not surprised on that. What a go-getter. She already she became the entire expedition. That alone is amazing, and her will to live and her means of survival are amazing. The fact that she went to this island without experience. I wonder if she knew the other people on the boat were inexperienced or if there was any lies fed to her. Again, she was at a point of desperation, so she could have known and decided to do it anyways. But yeah, just her willingness to take on the whole thing. Pretty impressive. I mean, it's more than pretty impressive. It's astonishing, if you will. Yeah. She kept a detailed diary describing her isolation, her prayers, her loneliness, and her determination to survive. I have heard this countless times of survivors keeping a detailed diary, that it's kind of their only connection to a conversation. It's kind of their only means of sanity, from what it seems like. But it also allows for them to recount these things and kind of have a log of what happened to kind of prove their story once they get rescued. You know, assuming that they will get rescued. I think quite a bit of time they don't expect that to happen, but they still write to keep things going, keep the hope alive, all of that. So I'm not too surprised on that. Great that she did that, though. It says she even cared for the dead man's cat, Vic, who became her only companion. I love that. Also impressive it wasn't killed by polar bears or the snow and all that. For nearly 2 years, Ada lived alone in the Arctic, completely cut off from the world. That's a whole different element, being alone, isolated, all of that. But on top of that, in the Arctic, the freezing cold, all you see is white snow, ice, water, very little life as it is. And that itself could be so hopeless feeling, so isolating feeling. So that's just a whole different element on top of need of survival. In August 1923, a rescue ship finally arrived. Okay, so it does seem like she wasn't like completely alone for super long. She was still stranded for 2 years along with the rest of the crew, but then, all the others went missing and died. So, yeah, that's a lot. So yeah, that explains the 2 year part. Um, Regardless, amazing she survived, amazing that she made it through this and everything. Ada Blackjack emerged thin, exhausted, but alive. She had survived where trained men had failed. She returned to Nome quietly. How I'm amazed that she would want to be quiet. If that was me, I would be telling everybody about this whole thing, but I guess that kind of speaks to her personality, her character. She seemed very reserved and very just more in her head, kind of thinking. And um, obviously, she was really smart to figure out the survival and dealing with all of this. Um, but yeah, quietly is very interesting. She used her earnings to get her son the medical care he needed. That is awesome. I love that she did that. That was her whole purpose, and she was able to achieve that. That the reunification of her and her son, along with achieving what she set out to do, that probably made up for most of what she went through, would be my guess, just because that's, you know, her purpose in going out there. So I love that part right there. Did she become famous? No. Did Stephenson reward her? Barely. In fact, he tried to use her story to promote himself. Wow, that is terrible. Um, Going back, he was the one that wanted to do the expedition to begin with. Um, so, yeah, he obviously wasn't on the trip itself, but he just wanted to make money off of it. But over time, people began to see Ada for what she truly was, a symbol of resilience. Yes, a survivor in every sense of the word. Absolutely. Today, she's remembered as one of the greatest female survival stories in history, not because of drama or violence, but because she endured silently, powerfully. Yeah, for sure. She was a quiet kind of strength. Her story speaks volumes about her and her personality, her character, the things she went through, but she also didn't draw a lot of attention to herself despite everything she went through. Ada Blackjack didn't fight a bear with a knife or build a raft across the ocean. She survived the Arctic alone for 2 years, and she did it for her son. All right. So, if you want more true survival stories like Ada's, the forgotten ones, the real ones, subscribe to Survivor's Desk. Leave a comment and tell me, do you think you could have survived the total isolation like Ada did? Um, I know for me, it would have been a struggle. It would have been a struggle for sure. I mean, if I had a cat, my likelihood of survival really would have grown exponentially. But yeah, the polar bear aspect, the freezing cold. I think the freezing cold is what gets me. That would probably drive me insane. I get so upset when my feet are cold constantly, which they are, but having to deal with the cold along with all these other aspects, yeah, that's a lot. All right, hope you enjoyed. I'll talk to you all next time.